Hello everyone. This video is about logic control and making decisions. And basically, as in any other language, the major and the main decision-making tool is the if-else structure. But in Python, of course, it's if-elif, not else-if-else structure. Python, unlike other languages, does not have a switch statement, switch case, and it doesn't have that question mark operator. So the major decision making is if, and actually if is more than enough to cover everything. Those are just literally some extra operators. If is powerful enough to do everything you need. So the structure is if you provide the condition and then column, then you provide the commands that needs to follow if that condition is true. Then elif, remember that this is not else if and this is not else if separate. It's elif and it's one word. And then after elif you have some other condition and then column and then again the commands to follow elif. You can have as many elifs as you want. And finally, you have the else scenario, which typically covers anything that is not covered in the if and the else ifs or the elifs. So it's quite obvious. Now, the major difference here, one of the very major differences between Python and C and MATLAB is the indentations. Python language is extremely depending on the indentation, which is the distance from the beginning of your line of code to the left side. This space is important. You cannot just arbitrarily change these distances and put them wherever you want. You cannot just bring them back, bring them forward, and change the indentations. If you do, that is going to change the meaning of which lines of code belong to which command or which block. Okay, so indentation is extremely important, and when you enter like this and the beginning of the line or cursor goes to there, you should only start there. You cannot start here. If it gives you an extra tab, then you have to start this print command right there. If you bring it back here, that is going to cause problems. In MATLAB and in C++, you have some ways to determine where something starts, where something ends, right? So for example, in MATLAB, you say what? You say if some condition, right? And then there is no column or anything. And then you provide some commands here. And then you use the keyword end. Now, these commands could be indented like this or could be not indented. It doesn't matter because we know at this end, this block of commands is ending and something else is starting. Or if it's a for loop also, for I equals 1 to 5 that you have in MATLAB, also again, we have the keyword end. Or if it's a while loop, we have the keyword end. So we know this end is going to tell us when something is finished. When you have it in C++, you have something similar. You say what? You say for int of I, and then you started at 0, and then you say I is less than 5, and then you say I plus plus, and then you start the commands here using what? Using braces. So you start a bunch of commands here, and then when it's over, right, you would use what? You would use another basically brace like that. Okay, so whatever goes inside braces, we know it's a block of commands. So when the brace, the right brace is there, it means the block of command is over. But in Python, there is nothing. You see here at the end of else, there is no brace here where the cursor is blinking, and there is no end. So the only way that this guy knows, the compiler knows, whether this print command belongs to else or it belongs to the script, right, to the original script, at which level it is, that's by indentation. So please be very careful and do not change indentation in Python. It's extremely sensitive, and I'll show you in an example. But first, let's look at the problem together. So this is the same problem I did in C++ videos. Let's say I give you a month and you are going to give me the number of days in the month. In that video in C++, I ask you to give me a number between 1 to 12. Here, I ask you to give me the first 3 letters of that month. So the first command I ask you is, hey, with input, enter the name of a month using the first 3 letters. And then I get it. And of course, input is always giving me back a string, so I can store it in the variable month. And then I compare my month against April, against June, September, and November. And this 4 months, I know they have 30 days, so I print 30 days. And look here that when I do my stuff in front of the if, I do not need to put the whole thing in a parenthesis like this as opposed to C++. In C++, it has to go in the parentheses like that, even each one of them, right? So you have to do it this way, and you have to do it this way, and then you have to put the whole thing also in parentheses, so there is no problem. And here, use a what? Use a braces. This is how you do it in C++. But in Python, we do not need any of these parentheses. We do not, and we just go by priority of operation. So here, these equalities will be assessed, and then the ors. If you want, if you are not sure, you're always welcome to what? To use parentheses. I mean, there is nothing wrong with using those, especially if you are not sure which operation goes first, right? Or goes first, or the equality, which of course in this case is equality. But if you are not sure, go ahead and put them in parentheses, but you don't really need to. So here I say if any of these, then go ahead and after column, which here means these are my commands, print 30 days and it's over, right? elif, and this is the other important thing. In MATLAB, you have else if, one word, and in C, you have else space if. In here is elif, one word, so be careful about that. Elif, month is February, then ask about the year. Is the year a leap year or a non-leap? So if they say leap and enter it as year as leap, then I say 29, else I say 28, else, which means what? The user did not enter April, June, September, November, or February, which are all those other 7 months, then say 31 days and take care of the whole situation. So here, if I run this, right, you see, I say January, then it says 31 days. Let's do it again. What is it? I say September, 30 days. Then run it again. So what is it? I say February. Is it a leap year or non-leap year? And I say non-leap. It says 28, and then I can check, of course, 29 case, right? So again, February, and this time it is a leap year, and 29 days, right? So you see it is working just fine. Now, what if I enter something other than these 12 first 3 letters? If I make a typo or deliberately want to break the code, you have to have a case to cover that. And I always mentioned, use else to cover the cases that are not appropriate. So if I were you, instead of writing the code like this, I would add another elif and then say month equals what? Equals January, or, and then keep doing that, right? And get all of those 7 months covered. So the months are 1, 3, 5, 7, and so on. So 1, 3, so this is March, and then 5, which is May, and then 7, which is July, so June. Now here, if your line is too long and you only have this much a window, although you can of course change it, but if let's say this is all the window you have, you can always continue on the next line. And in one of my videos, I forget to mention that you can go in the next line if the line becoming too long. You can always continue by using backslash. So anywhere in the code you use backslash, you can enter and continue in the next line. So after July, of course, that's 7, then you jump to what? To 8, which is August, and then or, then it's 10, which is October, and finally or, which is what? December. And then this column operator. So look here, when I enter, I should start there. And then I use this column here and I enter, and then it wants me to start right there, and I start right there. So you see here, using this backslash, I can take my line to the other side, and then I would use an else. Right? I would use an else, and for that, and now here, look, the other thing is this, look. This elif is for what? Is for that one, so they should all be at the same level. Else, then what? Go ahead and say print invalid input. Right? And you know your lines do not need any semicolon or anything. So let's go ahead and run this one. So here I give it something wrong, right? So I give it January, but instead of N, my hand just by mistake types M, and look, you see, invalid input. But if I do it again and I give it the correct thing, right? So if I give it, let's say December, it should give me 31 days. So always consider your else for invalid inputs, and that is going to make your code a lot more elegant. So, and by the way, this is a nested structure, right? This if-else here is nested inside this elif. So this is nested if structure. If you hear it somewhere, they said nested ifs. This is exactly what you're doing. You're using one if instead of another if. Okay, and you see I used more than one elif. So hopefully this is useful to you. But yeah, before I finish my video, I told you that you should not mess up with the indentation, right? So you see this if should start right below that year. Now if I go ahead and mess with it, right? Bring this guy here or bring this guy here. Is that gonna cause any problem? Let's find out. You see? Right away, it says what? Hey, invalid syntax. It knows that between this elif and that elif, there should not be any if or else. So if it sees something like that, it knows you messed it up somewhere. Now, if I get rid of this else and put it back, just leave that if. What about that? Look. You see? Again, an indent does not match any outer indentation level. You see? So this else is good, but there is no if at the same indentation for that else to match it. For this else, there is this if at the same indentation. For this else, there is nothing. So I have to bring this if what? At the same level at that else. So now that else and that if belong to each other. Right? So that you cannot change. What about this print line command? This, when I enter here, it tells me to start right there, right? Now, if I bring this print command one tab behind, like at the same level with if and else, at the same indentation, is that going to cause any problem? Let's find out. You see? Again, it does not expect it. Say, hey, this if, after if, I expect the next command to be one tab forward, but this guy is not one tab forward. You see? So clearly your indentation is not right. So you see, indentation is extremely what? Important in Python. You cannot just arbitrarily put them anywhere that you want. Please keep that in mind. Okay, so hopefully that was useful to you. I'll see you in the next video.